So like I said, everybody, we're going to go over my GbpCad trade that I took this morning. This was my first trade of the week. It's Tuesday. Like I said, we're just getting the week started here. It's also NFP week. So if I flip you over first, we're going to look at Forex Factory. This is what I come to every morning to start the day. You can see during our trading session today between 5 a.m. and 10 a.m., not a lot of high impact news. The only thing that needs to be noted is the bank holiday here. And also note that at 10 a.m., we have the ISM Services PMI. That's high impact US dollar news. So right there, that's the first event that could shake up the market today. But other than that, it looks very clean when we come to trade today, which is a good thing. We want to see little to no news. Now, if we zoom out and we go look at the rest of the week, you can scroll down and see Friday. That's where we have that non-farm employment change news. These news events here at 8:30 on Friday for CAD and for the US dollar, this is what we often see the market like lying in wait. It's anticipating what's going to happen here going into Friday. So the fact that I was able to snag a quick little win this morning is really great, considering this week is sometimes choppy, sometimes tougher to trade. It's always the first week of the month that's the toughest month to trade for us. So now let's take a look at GbpCad. So you can see the watch list on the right side of the screen. It was pretty large today. We're looking at 6 pairs, but mainly focused on GCAD from the moment that I woke up. The reason for that is if I put it into replay mode, you'll see if we zoom all the way back to here, as it approached the 50 EMA, I liked the fact that the market sentiment line was mainly in the buy zone. Now it is swapping, and you can see that on my notes. That's one of the knocks against this setup. It's mainly in the buy zone though today. It starts the day in the sell zone right here, but then it drives up into the buy zone, confirming that long bias overall. It kind of tells me that the buyers are in control more than the sellers today. Now, the other big knock against this trade is that you are trading counter trend up towards the 800 EMA right here. Now, that's not a end-all be-all. That doesn't mean we can't buy it. That just means we need to be aware that we're going counter trend. So I knocked it for that as well. And the other thing, if you want to note anything, is the zone here set at yesterday's high because the 2 pins to the left and the 2 to the right are not higher than this pin. This is our zone of resistance. That zone was tested twice earlier this morning before I took the entry, and it showed strong resistance to it. It's not like we broke above that zone and said, oh, we're going to move higher. This is out of the Asian range, which is good, but it was still showing strong resistance to this 1.716-ish zone. But as it developed, I was watching it, and I said this in the group chat this morning, I was watching it to see if it would hold the 50 EMA. So let's just turn the replay mode off because we don't need it now. And as you can see, it held the 50, held the 8 EMA over the 21, but what happened here was it closed for a 2-candle formation off the 50 and off the 21 like that, but the RSI was not in proper position. So we couldn't take this as an A1 entry. We had to wait. As we waited, it pulled back to the 21 EMA, pulled back to the 8 EMA, and in that pullback, if you look at the 1 minute, you'll see exactly where I got in. So in this pullback, after it pulls back for 15 minutes, in the second 15 minutes after this 2-candle formation, we then start to see it come back up through the 50 EMA on the 1 minute with the market sentiment line in the buy zone here on the 1 minute. And if that 1 minute market sentiment line can hold the buy zone, then this more likely than not will hold the 8 EMA and rise. Now, as you can see, it does exactly that. It rises about 3R, 2.9R. The risk here was about 6 pips. And it moves about 19. So it's still a great trade. I was able to close most of the trade, as you can see, up at 171.68. The entry was at 171.52. The stop was at 46. So it was a very nice trade. And from there, because it moved into profit, let me blow this up. Because it moved into profit pretty quickly, once I was up over 1.5R and I graded this a C setup, I was up over 1R. My stop loss, as you can see, was locked. And that's how I got tapped out of the trade here as it started to come back down. Notice, when the market sentiment line gets into the sell zone, that happens while the trade is still above my stop loss. I could have gotten out of the trade right here. I was just getting ready for the stream, so I didn't. But we know that when the market sentiment line swaps down into this opposite zone, if we're buying it and it comes down into the sell zone, that's a sign that the trade is probably done. Now, is it done for the day? Could it come higher? Of course. It's not done for the day. But for this trade, from this entry with this risk point, once this happens, that's a really good sign to say, hey, time to pull the trade, take your profit, and wait for another good entry. As you can see on the 15-minute, it's still holding the upshift. So this could still come higher today, especially now that it's broken out of the zone here that was previous resistance. This could be the retest for a move off of it as support as it continues to make higher lows and higher highs. Does everybody see that structure? And that's all I was looking to take advantage of this morning. So this is technically a D1 entry because you're using the 1 minute divergence and the 1 minute 50 EMA to take your entry. If you look back here, there's 1 minute bullish divergence from 3 o'clock to 5:15. That sets the bottom. We get the higher low here. Market sentiment pulls into the buy zone. That's your entry point. Stop loss here. To me, normally, we're not going to put it at this most recent point because it could retest that before moving higher and stop you out. But the reason of why I had it about 6 pips, 7 pips, is because from there on the 15-minute, if it was to come down, it would be back at the 50 EMA on the 15-minute. And I wouldn't want the trade at that point. I would want to find a better entry point with better risk reward. So that was why I was comfortable giving this a little bit tighter of a stop loss. And because I gave it that tighter stop loss, it made my risk reward on this setup better. I was able to quickly, as you can see, very quickly reach almost 2R in the first 20 minutes, first 30 minutes of the trade. So it was very, very easy to manage because I know once I go up 2R, 1.5R, my stop has to get locked. I've got to be taking profit. So once you're able to identify a tight risk point like this, it makes the trading almost easier. The trick is, how do you find that tight risk point? Well, for us, for the D1 entry, it starts on the 15-minute. You're waiting for those entry signals. Like I said, no A1 here in this 2-candle formation. So you just wait. You wait, and it gives you that 1 minute retest with that 1 minute risk reward, and then you trade this like a D1 entry, and you can go get at least 2R out of this trade. Like I said, at best, almost 3R, 2.8R at best. So a really solid trade considering it is a C setup with the swapping liquid 50, with it being counter trend and trading into that resistance zone. Definitely knocks against the setup for sure, but still, as you can see, it's able to be managed, bagged, and the risk is able to be mitigated so you don't go red. If I was still in this trade, it's kind of unknown. Is it going to come lower now that it broke the 21 and bodied the 50, or is it going to hold the 50 and come higher? I'm not sure. So it's much smarter to be out of the first trade, now looking for the second trade, rather than marrying the idea that this has to come up today and just holding a buy position all day. I don't think that that makes any sense either. So with this trade, what I want to get across to you guys is when you take the courses, when you learn the ASFX systems, you'll be able to say, all right, I'm trading in trend. I want to either find an A1 or a D1 entry. We know the D2s are the reversals, so we're looking for A1 or D1. Okay, we didn't get the A1 entry. Now let's go down to the 15-minute and the 1 minute, from the 15-minute to the 1 minute to find potential divergence, to find the potential D1 setup. Both of them still trading in the same direction, both of them taking advantage of the same trend, just having different ways of reading the entry and the risk reward, and then the trade management, of course, is slightly different as well. But the A1 and the D1 work really well together. So again, if you're here this morning, I see we've got more people popping in. If you're in ASFX, coming up next week, I'm adding to the beginner course content. So whether you have the starter pack or whether you just have the beginner course, we're going to go deeper into the A1 entry system. And in the A1 deep dive, I'm still going to talk about the D1 a little bit because they work so well together. If you only know the A1, you're doing yourself a disservice because you'll miss entries that go in the direction you were looking to trade, but they were D1s instead of A1s. That's what built the D1, is we were looking for these A1 entries, but we just couldn't find them. But we knew the direction these pairs should move, and that's how we went in, used the lower time frames, and built the D1 like 3 or almost 4 years ago now. So all of that is going to kind of be talked about in the A1 deep dive coming next week. So if you're a member currently, or if you're not a member and thinking about joining, we're always adding content to the courses. So when you join, you'll be able to go back and rewatch it, and you'll, of course, get further updates. You get lifetime access with us. So if you're interested in the courses, if you want to jump in before I add this content next week, hit the link in the description. You guys can take advantage of that. I have it pinned here in the live chat as well. Any questions?